and welcome into the Sports Central post-game show. I'm Sarah Daly alongside Grant Salzman. We're here to break this all down after another tough loss for the Cardinals. We thought they were going to battle back after a bit of a disappointment last night, but that wasn't the case. They came back, tied it, pitching once again a conversation, and going into bullpen a little early. We haven't been here before. We've talked about this many times throughout this season, Grant. So what was your takeaway on tonight? I mean, a couple of positives. We had some guys finally put the bat to the ball and really go deep and put some points on the board. But long story short, just didn't get it done.
Yeah, I like this comment a lot from Nick Jensen. A day late and a dollar short for the Cardinals back-to-back. And that's what it's been. 2 games in a row, you find a way to battle all the way back. Wilson Contreras gets you a 3-run homer in the 9th, and it's just a little, too late. I was really happy with Nolan Gorman's performance. He's been hitting the ball a lot better lately. Yesterday, some good at-bats today as well. So I'm happy to see where we're at with Nolan Gorman performing a little bit better. It's just that's back-to-back games now where the offense has done enough, it feels like, and then pitching can't get the job done. Today it wasn't really blowing it the same way that it was yesterday. Still a disappointing loss at the end of the day.
Yeah, it hurts still. It still hurts a little bit, especially when we're trying to be on the upside on the swing of things. But once again, the Card Central post-game show is brought to you by Hot Shots. St. Louis is home for all the games all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com and also by DraftKings. The crown is yours. So let's talk a little bit about some of the storylines tonight. Kirk for Toronto really had a solid game. He seals it in extras. Went 4 for 5, homer in the 8th, delivering a walk-off double in the 10th, and continuing to stretch it for 16-35 over 9 games. And this is just a couple games ago. But what he's been doing in a stretch of a couple games, like the guy's on fire, and the Cardinals really can't shut him down completely, right?
Yeah, Kirk goes 3 for 5, home run, plates 2 RBI, and scores 3 runs of his own. He's been a Cardinal killer these last 2 games. He found a way to slow him down even a little bit. The Cardinals probably win both of these. So he's been really hot, and it's what he does. He gets on base. He finds a way to drive runners in. It's nothing new for Alejandro Kirk.
So let's talk pitching. I don't want to jump immediately into some other subjects that might take a little bit to tackle, but the pitching tonight. So, Miles is out there. We had a couple of pitchers in the last couple of starts go deep, 5, 6, not really enough, but they're always struggling right out of the gate, right? They're coming into the second inning with 2 or 3 runs already on tap. They're never coming in with a lead. So the past couple of games have led to the Cardinals kind of with that mentality of constantly playing catch up, right? And we saw that again tonight.
Yeah, it's 3-0 before your offense even gets a chance to step up to the plate is disappointing. Michaelis, so at the beginning of the season, even when he was finding a way to pitch out of things, there was no zip, really. There was no zip to his breaking ball. His fastball, which doesn't have a lot of zip already, had no movement to it. And today he's hanging everything. It felt like every breaking ball, especially in that first inning, was hung up in the zone. Even some in the second that he got away with. It looked like he was serving them up again. And that's what we've seen. It slowly started happening again in his last start again. It felt like he got away with it. Did not get away with it today, and it was a little bit of a brutal start. I know he went 5 innings, even at 4 runs, and I guess 6 runs. Pardon me. He if it was 4 runs, he keeps you in the game, but that 5th inning, giving up a few more, it can't happen. You can't expect to give up 6 runs and 5, and your offense give you a chance, which they did. That's what sucks about it is that they give you a chance and you still can't get the win.
Right. So you get a chance and the bullpen comes in. And this is kind of the example of last night, right? You get a chance, the bullpen comes in and doesn't quite get it done. So thoughts on, I know during a lot of daytime shows today talking about the relief and who exactly our closer should be now that they have no doubt in Halsey and like where we need to go with that. But even tonight, kind of the same situation, like holding your breath with, even though we were down a little bit, but like, what is our bullpen going to do collectively to make sure they can just go a different direction, pivot? How do we pivot from here and make sure that we plug these pitchers into the right place, whether they're a long mid reliever, a mid closer, maybe just a flat out closer?
Yeah, I think that, and Jeremy Hodge wants to know where was Romero in the ninth. Romero's not going to be put in a game that it's 8-6 in the ninth inning. That just it doesn't make a lot of sense. You don't use a high leverage lefty, especially in a game you're losing by 2 in the ninth inning. And it's unfortunate that that's how it works. If this game was in isolation, obviously you would have had someone a little higher leverage there. Losing by 2, I don't think there should be any question of Ollie's decision making. You put John King in because you kind of needed him to get some outs there. He's not a high leverage arm. He gives up a run, then Leahy comes in, first batter gives up a home run, and Kyle Leahy's a guy that he's been a high leverage guy lately, and he's been losing a little bit. So I think you're hoping in a 3-run game at that point that you're able to get him a little bit of work and get his confidence back, and it just didn't work out. And then, yeah, there's a lot of talk in this chat about Roycroft. He needs to be released. He's been struggling a little bit, and these are when you put him in the game is when you're down already by 2 runs, and it's just a shame. With hindsight's 2020. You score 3 in the ninth, Roycroft pitches a shot, and you win the game. But I don't question any of the bullpen decision making. It makes sense in the situation of the game to put those guys in.
So then we also have some comments. Shifty said, "Can't wait for the season to be over." I think that's a little bit aggressive. I think there's still plenty of time.
There's some upset fans in the chat today.
Yeah, and then to be real, you're also playing a Toronto team who's made the playoffs the past 3 of 5 seasons, right? They didn't go past the first round, but at least they got there. That's a lot more to say for what the Birds have done. And I'm not trying to rip on our team because clearly I want to see an organization win, but you're playing an organization that is going to build off this young team. They're very young, right? They have a good bullpen. They've won the last 10 out of 12 this season. They have good hitting. They've made the postseason the last 3 out of 5 years, and they play bat to ball. We saw that tonight. They put the bat on the ball, and that's how they get it on. So I think there's a lot of positives coming out of the Toronto Blue Jays, but I think the Cards can also learn from that, right? You're not going to see a team that's young, kind of equal to their age, and be able to play ball in a similar fashion that they can.
Yeah, I think that with the Blue Jays, they've won 10 of their last 12. They're probably the hottest team in the MLB right now. It's unfortunate that you come and face them so hot. Bill downtown Toronto is doing what we were doing last month. He's exactly right. The Blue Jays are hot. I think, though, let's say the Cardinals win tomorrow. They go 3-3 in their last 6 games. If you would have told a Cardinal fan going into Friday, hey, between the Dodgers and Blue Jays, you split them, I don't think that's that bad. And yes, in hindsight, you think, okay, so we win a game against the Dodgers, we win the series against the Blue Jays. In the grand scheme of things, 3-3 against these 2 teams isn't bad. I think tomorrow's a big one because 3-3 feels a lot better than 2-4, and you're able to stay afloat. So win that tomorrow. You stay within striking distance still, both the wild card and the division, and it's almost Flag Day, so that's when we can start looking at the standings when it starts mattering. But yeah, I don't think it's time to wave hit the panic button yet. 3 losses in a row does stink, but at the end of the day, things can be okay. And the Cardinals, I think, will be able to tread water and need a good start tomorrow for Matthew Liberatore for sure.
So Ivan Herrera slugged a 3-run homer to give St. Louis the 4-3 lead. Palante held on early in the game the other night, really kind of setting a tone, but again, delivered 6 innings last night, surrendering just 2 runs. Contreras sparked early. So in the last 2 nights, we've seen a couple of key players really come up and make a benefit and make a difference. And we saw that again tonight. However, Brendan Donovan didn't come back out on the field in the ninth. So there was an odd tweak mentioned maybe in his swing. He didn't come back out to left. So was there something going on there? Have we heard anything about that and what that situation is?
Derek Gold of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch tweeted saying that it was I believe a right big toe injury. So I take that as you will. I'm not a doctor, but I don't know if that's something to be super concerned about. Hopefully just a little discomfort. He'll probably get the day off tomorrow. And with the Cardinals having an off day and Thursday to travel, I think he will be okay. I think at most you see him miss a game. Tomorrow might have been an off day anyway for Donnie. And pardon me, it's not an off day Thursday. They travel to Milwaukee and play on Thursday. But either way, I think Donovan probably would get an off day anyway tomorrow, so I don't think it's the biggest sign of concern if he gets a little bit of rest.
Yeah, not a sign of concern or any reason to hit the panic button, but he is one of the most contributing players right now that can
Yeah.
play multiple positions. We have other folks that really can't play in certain positions. So losing someone like him would definitely be a piece of the puzzle that would have to be thought about as far as who you put where and how you bring things up. So the Redbirds defense under the spotlight, a clean inning defensive wise, but when Kyle Leahy came in and gave up that bomb, it just kind of, I think, took the air out of the place a little bit. So what are your thoughts on the Cardinals pin? Because I feel like it's either super high and nails and lights out or super low and like really have to work on things and give it up.
Yeah, it just feels like I think right now with the bullpen, obviously the Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, your top reliever, blowing it yesterday. It feels like a big difference between that. When you're down by 2 or 3 runs, those guys you put in, you don't have a lot of confidence in, which you're not supposed to. And they seem like it feels like they kind of give the game away, and it gets out of striking distance a little bit. But when you have that bullpen, I still have a ton of confidence in this bullpen between Maton, Romero, and Matz is on. I think Leahy's going through a little bit of a slump, but he will be fine. Helsley, there's no need, I think, to hit the panic button on him yet either. Jojo Romero will be okay as well. Like I feel very confident 4 to 5 guys in the bullpen, which is normally a pretty good thing. You're never gonna feel great through the 1 through 7th or 8th guy in the pen. So sometimes the bottom guys don't pitch well, and that's what we saw today. And in hindsight, ended up costing the Cardinals.
So we have a couple of comments because, of course, people are curious about the pitching. Richard Crouch mentioning that Rykov can't pitch consistently in the MLB. And Mickey needs to just take his overpriced contract and go to Leahy is overexposed, which, I mean, many people think a lot of things. So clearly there's that. Eddie Money, pitching is more important than runs. Cardinals can score all the runs they want. Problem is they can't hold the lead. Well, we've seen that handful
Yeah.
of times. So there is some truth to that, and there is some frustration there that is legitimately a frustration. But if you are following us and enjoying this conversation, please be sure to subscribe, like, and join so we can comment and interact and have this conversation about the Cardinals baseball organization, where we're at this point in time. But we also need to discuss just around the corner for just a couple of minutes, some hopes on the draft. Like the Cardinals do have that coming up. Do we have anything, clearly not something right away, an instant fix, but something coming down the pipe that could possibly be an answer? They have the number 5 pick in the 2025 draft. It's just around the corner. And there's a couple of prospects that St. Louis could land that would really help maybe in the future, the next 2 years or so. A lefty from LSU and Cade Anderson is looking at right now one of their top selections.
Yeah, I think that in that 5th spot, there's a couple good different pitching prospects the Cardinals can get. And it's exciting because the Cardinals haven't picked this high in a while. And with the new lottery, the Cardinals were not the 5th worst team in baseball last year. They were above 500, and they still get this high of a pick. It's pretty exciting. I think it'll be fun to kind of see the hype because, most years Cardinals are in mid-teens, high teens, early 20s, and it's okay, we're going to get a guy that we might not see for 4 or 5 years, but picking this high, you can get a true prospect and get someone that could really make an impact 2 or 3 years down the line. It's just hard, I think, in the MLB draft for fans because they know that guy that's getting drafted, unless you have the Paul Skeens or the Jack Caglianes, they're not going to make an instant impact to your MLB squad. So it's hard to get so excited for these players, and then you got to wait a couple weeks for it to happen, or a couple of years for it to happen. Pardon me.
So what is your takeaway from tonight? What was your biggest key factor to grow on or to maybe look to improve? And what is a positive? I mean, we did have a couple of home runs.
Yeah,
I love to see that Busch Stadium has more butts in the seats. I mean, that's fantastic. It's been way better than what it has been. So clearly a product on the field is good and entertaining. And that's something that we're always going to love to see. A little bit of energy and motivation is up, but there's still just a couple of things that I think could have made things a lot better.
Yeah, I think positives. Nolan Arenado's homer. He's a guy that was been making some good swings, just not seeing the results. He sees it one today. Same with Nolan Gorman, who's kind of continued a little bit of momentum over and over again. But the negative is the Miles Michaelis because he had that kind of stretch where I think he fooled us a little bit. He pitched very well for a little bit there, and I think we might be seeing a little bit of true colors again from Miles Mikolas. I just don't know where he's going to be, and that's what happens with your fifth starter. You can't expect him to go pitch quality starts every day, and I think this is. I can think of a few times now in the last week where it's like, okay, well, the Cardinals lost, but hey, look how well they fought. Well, now it's a question of why are they having to fight so hard? Why is this offense always put behind the eight ball? This rotation, which was really carrying the Cardinals during this winning streak, has struggled a little bit. We've seen a couple bad starts in a row. So I think now the next week or two is the rotation really needs to show something, needs to show some quality starts and help out this bullpen, because now they're trying to carry a little bit more of a load than they have in the previous few weeks. So I think the biggest negative is the rotation, and with the rotation getting better, hopefully in the next few weeks, the bullpen will as well.
Right. So pitching ultimately is what it comes down to, but the bullpen has blown late leads. We haven't really had the starting rotation go deep. A little bit of a roster shakeup with McGreevy coming in and Swanson being optioned. And then you have, I kind of feel like there's a little bit of unsteadiness there right now. And that might be some of it, trying to figure out back to the whole piecing puzzle pieces back together. That's what everyone was looking for at the beginning of the year, right? Like who fits where and who does what and who does the best in that spot. And I feel like there's still options there. So I don't think the Cardinals organization is done with that. But what are your thoughts on some of these up and downs from AAA to majors? And what would be a good move now at this point to try and get someone up that can definitely give us some depth as a starter and then be a solid go-to guy in the bullpen?
Yeah, I think right now it's that depth is Steven Matz. I think with Michael McGreevy, he'll stay up for another start, especially with the stretch of 13 games in 13 days. But I think I see it as a tryout between Palante and Michael McGreevy in these two starts. And right now, Palante has the upper hand. Obviously, he got to pitch against the Blue Jays. McGreevy had to do it against the Dodgers. It's hard in a small sample size, but I think depending on what Ali Marmol sees out of those two, one of them could be optioned back to AAA. They will do the 6-man with McGreevy for at least one more rotation through, but then it comes a point of you got to make a decision with McGreevy. Either he's moved to that bullpen and can kind of take the Matthew Liberatore role from last year, or you go permanent with the 6-man. It's a tough decision to make, and I think what they'll end up doing is sending McGreevy back down to AAA. I know that won't make Cardinals fans happy, but that seems like the most logical solution from all of this.
I know some folks have commented, Larry Loveless, Marmol sure likes Rycroft. There's a lot of fans and people that like Rycroft. It just hasn't really, or Roycroft rather, it just hasn't really worked out to the best of his advantage. He comes in and does really positive in a lot of situations, but then comes back and just kind of takes it all away, which is what we've seen from quite a few players. So we can tackle that on the other side of the break, but baseball season clearly is almost halfway done, almost to the All-Star break, and it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings Pick 6. So if you think of DraftKings Pick 6 as your fastball right down the middle, it's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at a big win. Just select 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. So Pick 6 is available. Cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
So what are your additional thoughts tonight? What do the Cardinals need to tackle tomorrow? It's a day game, and then they head off to Milwaukee. But they do have a 1:15 start and a chance to at least take another one from Toronto. I mean, hopefully it doesn't turn out as close as it was tonight. But the final score, once again, 10-9, the Jays on top of the Birds. The Birds now 36-31 on the season, Jays 37-30. Jay's second in the AL East, Cardinals second in the NL Central. So two teams really fighting to stay atop of their respective leagues.
Yeah, I think tomorrow it's just about striking early and striking first. It's something the Cardinals haven't really done lately. Even in that Dodgers series, it was, I think, a Friday they attacked early and they got a comfortable win. Saturday was a little bit of a slog. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, obviously, it's been them trying to chip away at leads. Try to just attack early. Give Matthew Liberatore, who he's been struggling a little bit lately. Give him a lead. You make him feel comfortable. If they can go up 2-3 runs in that first to third inning and just let Liberatore, maybe we see the Libby that we saw the last couple starts. I think that'd be really big for him and the confidence as a team going into a big series, your first against the Brewers this season.
Right. And do we have an update on Walker? Because he was in the IL with his wrist. And I did hear during the broadcast that he was thrown, around and working out and sweating and doing some things before the game today. They said he looked a lot better. But do we have a timeline on his return?
Yeah, I don't think they've given a timeline yet, but I think the hope is with that it seems pretty promising that he's getting back. And he's a guy that we saw hitting really well. So, of course, he goes on the IL right when he's hitting well. He'll be a big name back because I think it kind of completes this lineup, whether it's a Walker pinch hit or if Alec Burleson's on the bench because Walker's starting in right, Burley off the bench with a lefty bat. I think it really just gives this lineup another piece of depth with Jordan Walker that's really important.
So we had Gorman going deep tonight, Arenado and Contreras, all of which really needed those. It was only Gorman's third home run of the season, which honestly, when they said that, I was like, wow. I mean, I just had in my head an anticipation of a little bit more because you just think of that player as having a few more by this time of year. But even Arenado and Contreras both hitting number 8 and definitely contributing. So it was nice to see the Cardinals bats come alive a bit. Again, the atmosphere, the energy. It's nice to have fans back in the stadium being supportive. And I think that definitely does contribute. But what are your thoughts on the bats right now as far as it goes for the Birds? Because we do still have some guys hitting very well, but some are really needing to still find their position and how they need to play in the lineup.
Yeah, I don't think you can be too upset about the lineup right now. I mean, you've put up 9 runs today, 5 yesterday, and those 4 yesterday, pardon me, but in both games, those should have been enough to get it done. I think you'd like to see them a little more consistent. They've relied on big, crooked number innings. I think you'd like to see them be able to sustain a little bit more. But yeah, Nolan Gorman's bat, you got to be happy about it so far. If you can sustain that for a few weeks, I think maybe you could finally plateau and see kind of the Nolan Gorman that we saw a few years ago.
I'll go ahead and tackle Silvos Martinez comments at 9:49. Fans in the stadium, what game you're watching? Well, you know what? At the beginning of the year, there was 0 fans in the stadium and there was 0 confidence. So yeah, as someone who pays attention to that, it was nice to see a little bit of a trickle even up to the 3rd level. And there was, fans out there, little kids. It's summer now, a lot more opportunity, and the Cardinals were actually winning. So yes, either way you want to look at it, it was terrible at the beginning. It's good now. It's good to see. So I'm going to stand by that comment.
Yeah, there's definitely, even if there's not more fans, there's definitely more of an atmosphere, more electricity so far in the past few weeks. So there's definitely more of a buzz around Busch.
Well, I definitely appreciate you joining us here tonight. We are going to be live for the post-game show tomorrow around 4 because it is a 1:15 first pitch at Busch Stadium. So a quote-unquote getaway day for the Jays before the Cardinals. Also, they're in Milwaukee, correct?
They're in Milwaukee, yes.
So both teams jetting out to their respective locations to take on another series. But any other final thoughts, questions, concerns, Grant, that you have for tonight and what we need to look forward to tomorrow?
Yeah, I think tomorrow could just a nice clean game would be really big. See Libby go 6, leave with the lead, and just 3 nice innings from the bullpen. I think there's a lot of guys that need a little bit of a confidence boost after the last few games in the bullpen. So I just think a clean, if you win 11-9, that's great. But I think what they really need is just a 4-2 win. Libby maybe gives up a run or 2. Bullpen comes in, does the job. Clean, easy, get to Milwaukee on a high note.
Yeah, let's hope the depth of the starting rotation and the roster resilience in the bullpen can be tested and come through solid. So once again, the Cardinals tomorrow will take on their final game in the series against the Toronto Blue Jays at 1:15 at Busch. Then they will head to Milwaukee. But tonight's final score, 10-9. Unfortunately, the Cardinals fall once again to the Jays at Busch Stadium, and the Cardinals now sitting at 36-1. But we will be right back tomorrow. We have Randy in the morning, and then we have 365 in the Cardinals post-game show around 4 p.m., like I said. So we hope you join us. Please like, subscribe, comment, interact. Tell us your thoughts, opinions, what went well, what didn't go well, and what you would like to see us discuss just a little bit more. That is Grant. I'm Sarah Daly. We appreciate you immensely joining us right here on Sports Central Cards post-game show. We'll see you right back here tomorrow around 4 p.m.